evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Rockville's virtual public forum on public safety. I'm Katherine Kirk Dantzler, Director of Communication. This is the first of many virtual public forums the city has planned, and we look forward to engaging with you on various topics about our city. Tonight's forum is hosted by the Rockville City Police Department. Also joining us tonight are Rockville City Manager Rob Despirito and our Deputy City Manager Barack Matite. Just like our police officers have roll call to start their patrol shifts, tonight we are going to have a community roll call to take your questions for Chief Victor Brito and the RCPD command staff about our city's public safety. There are two ways you can ask your questions tonight. You can raise your hand by clicking the icon at the bottom of your WebEx screen, or you can type your question in the WebEx chat. All we ask is that you tell us your name and let us know what neighborhood you live in. And most of all, please be respectful. Because Rockville, you matter. Your safety matters. And your voice matters. And we're listening. So let's get into it. Please welcome RCPD's Chief of Police, Victor Brito.
Good evening, Rockville, and welcome to the Rockville City Police Department's roll call room. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. The major purpose of us being here tonight is to answer questions from our community. All of us are engaged in multiple community groups and neighborhoods throughout our community, but we recognize that oftentimes people are not enrolled in neighborhood groups and or community associations. So we wanted to do this to make sure we reach out and touch everybody and able to all of you to have your voice and ask questions, your concerns, and we can answer those to the best of our ability. But I also, I think it's important before I start off, I want to introduce you to everyone here. I want to introduce our command staff. Deputy Chief Andrew Powell, Major Michael England, Lieutenant Jason West, Lieutenant Bill Nieberding, Lieutenant Andy Tagliente, Lieutenant Kenneth Matney, and Lieutenant Andy Crawford. Thank you very much again for being with us. Mr. Despirito, did you have a comment before we started?
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate this opportunity. I just wanted to say, to add my voice to the welcome. On behalf of the Mayor and Council of the City of Rockville and my team and our other charter officials, we welcome all of you and the viewing public. It's my honor to help welcome you to this very important conversation. Your safety and security are paramount to we with the city. We look forward to listening to you tonight. Thank you for making time to be with us. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much. And our Deputy City Manager, Mr. Barack Matite, would you like to have a word?
Thanks for the opportunity, Chief. I do not have anything to add. I look forward to the conversation and the questions from the community today.
Thank you very much. I want to get right to it. And I think it's important that we talk about statistics, but we talk about the things that we have seen and how statistics are derived and what's occurring in our community. And that's also, some of these things are reflected not only locally, regionally, and nationally, but we're going to talk about the city of Rockville. So I'd like to kick it off to Lieutenant Jason West, and he can give a statistical overview, and we're going to show you some slides here also to give you a visual.
Good evening, everyone. As the chief said, statistics are very important in our business. We keep track of a lot of statistics for various reasons. The most important is we engage in data-driven policing here in the city of Rockville. So we compile our data so that we know exactly where we need to deploy the men and women of the Rockville City Police Department to best serve the community. Could you go to the next slide, please? If you can see this at home, there's a slide regarding crimes against persons. You can see that the 2023 data is there, it's captured. However, we're still in the midst of 2023, so that data is ongoing. Comparing 2023 this far to this point previous years, there is a rise in simple assault cases. That's noted due to domestic violence. They are victim-specific crime. And we relate some of that in previous years to the COVID-19 pandemic. You can see where we're at with aggravated assaults. Again, most of those are domestic related. As far as sexual assaults in the city, here in 2023, we're just below where we were in 2022. Robberies, as you may be aware, we've had a rash of robberies in the region. Rockville was not immune to that, but through the diligent work of our criminal investigators and working with our allied partners, we were able to successfully close those cases. Next slide, please. These are property crimes that we're investigating or that we field here at the Rockville Police Department. In 2023, we're kind of on par. You can see where the trend goes down as we move from vandalism through theft from autos, shoplifting, identity theft, burglary, and fraud. One thing I'll note is Rockville is also not immune to theft from autos. That's a regional and national trend. We do see that across the country. Vandalism remained pretty common. The frequency of that was pretty common here in the city of Rockville. One of the other things that I should note, while declining in number, it's noted that thefts from building commonly targeted cell phones left unattended and bicycles that were secured in storage areas. Next slide, if there is one. This is a repeat of what we just saw. This doesn't have the 2023 data on it. This is from 2020 through 2022. Just real quick, touching on simple assault cases. They are rising. They're up 40% since 2020, but we attribute that to domestic violence and the COVID-19 pandemic. Is there another slide? So that's a brief overview of our statistical data. Again, our 2023 data is highlighted in pink. We're still capturing that throughout the year. But again, statistics, everybody wonders what statistics are used for in law enforcement. Again, we use that to direct our personnel to parts of the city that may have crime trends. And it's our hope that we can use this information to best serve the community of Rockville. Thanks.
Kathy, if we can, I'd like to get right to questions and concerns that we have from our community. I think that's going to be the lion's share of what we're going to be talking about tonight. And I want to address those issues directly.
All right. Just to reiterate, there are two ways you can ask your questions tonight. You can raise your hand by clicking the icon at the bottom of the WebEx screen, or you can type your question in the WebEx chat. Again, all we ask is that you tell us your name and let us know what neighborhood you live in, and most of all, be respectful. As we wait for questions to come in, I have one that comes from the chat from Brigida Mulligan. How does Rockville crime compare to Montgomery County? And a follow-up, how does the RPD handle shoplifting?
So we work very closely with the Montgomery County Police Department. As far as shoplifting, we're very responsive to those calls for service. They're a priority to us because it's important that we take care of our business community. Obviously, if there's incidents of theft or shoplifting, it impacts the overall economy of the city of Rockville. As far as how it trends or how it relates to Montgomery County statistical data, I'm not familiar with all of their data. But I would say because of our proximity to other parts of Montgomery County, we're the county seat here in Rockville, I would say that we're probably very equivalent to them with numbers.
And our next question, I see Adam Van Grack. Your hand is raised. Please go ahead with your question.
Chief, I'm hoping you can answer the question. I know that in the budget, the Rockville Police Department have asked for a significant amount for cameras, which I think is a great idea. And I was wondering, I live in Rockshire and work in town center. And I'm wondering if you could tell a little bit about how you think the use of cameras can help the Rockville Police Department with regard to combating crime, and whether you're looking to just town center or more outlying areas as well to help you guys fight the crime? Thank you.
Adam, thank you for the question. Number one, cameras are very, very important for us as how we solve crime. As a matter of fact, all of our investigators, all of our officers, when we come on a crime scene, the first thing we're looking for is video evidence of that. So it's very prevalent in law enforcement, and it's certainly prevalent here, is that we look for viable video footage of criminality that has occurred. While town center is certainly important, I would say cameras throughout the entire city are important. Adam, having cameras and us readily available is very, very important. And as I've discussed in other venues, the Rockville City Police Department has an app and a method called Rockview, which gives us the ability for any members in our community, whether it be business and or residential, to register their cameras with us. Doesn't give us the ability to look at them. All it does is tell us when those where those cameras are, and we can have them in a GIS fashion. So when our officers and our investigators go out to go out to an area where there has been criminality, we can pinpoint where those cameras are, and it speeds the investigative process. And that can be found, Rockview can be found on the City of Rockville's website. Very easy to navigate. Matter of fact, we have cards made up that we have here with a QR code, the ones that I'm showing here right now, Rockview, that our officers can give out, to our community members. Make it very easy with your phone, with your smart device, and to register those cameras. And all the instructions are on the site. It's a great opportunity for people to do that and help support law enforcement and collaborate with us. But again, it does not give us the ability to look at the camera. That permission is purely yours. It only lets us know that you have a camera and that you're willing to share it with us. And that's a very positive thing, because partnership in law enforcement is very, very important. So thank you, Adam.
Our next question comes from an attendee, Judy Rudolph. Go ahead with your question.
From listening to the statistics that were reported, I didn't hear hate and bias incidents. I know that at one point they were being tracked. So my question is, are you still tracking them? And if so, what is being done to make the public aware of the need to report such incidents?
Judy, thank you very much. Glad to have you on our WebEx. Thank you very much. Deputy Chief Powell, you want to handle it?
Yeah, certainly. Great question. Yes, we are still tracking statistics for hate bias incidents and hate bias crimes. They are two distinct things. A hate bias crime is when a crime occurs, it's primarily motivated by someone's hate or bias towards that individual person, such as vandalism, where you would have something derogatory towards ethnic group, or an assault that's based primarily on somebody's race or ethnicity. A hate bias incident is something that might be hate speech and it might be hurtful, but it's not necessarily a crime. Both of those are tracked by our agency. We report them to Montgomery County's Community Engagement Unit. They report all statistics to the Maryland State Police and the Maryland Joint Analysis Center. We then send all information to the governor's office. When we have hate bias crimes that we are investigating, we put out notices to the public to try to determine if anybody has any information related to this, to develop suspects, to develop witness information, and our ability to solve the crime and work with the Montgomery County State's Attorney's Office to make sure justice is served.
Thank you for that answer. Now we'll go to a question from the chat from Paula. I've seen an assault and a fight in Town Square. I never see police presence in Rockville Town Square except parking enforcement. I live in Town Square. Can police walk around occasionally?
Well, I appreciate the question and the concern. First of all, I'd like to just say that we have a very robust presence in the Rockville Town Square, both at night and during the daytime hours. Our midnight shifts or evening shifts have all been directed to conduct foot patrols down there, and we work well with Guard, who's the property management company there. We work in direct communication with the business owners and the residents as well. Earlier, or toward the last part of 2022, Deputy Chief Powell assigned me to be our liaison down there. In addition to that, I can tell you that during the daytime hours, Lieutenant Nieberding's personnel in our community engagement unit are frequently in the Rockville Town Square, conducting foot patrols, business checks, checking the library, and they're very diligent in those efforts. Unfortunately, we cannot be there all the time. We do have to patrol the rest of the city, and we do that, but we've made a concerted effort at the Rockville Police Department to have our personnel very visible in the Rockville Town Square.
Next question from Frank and Judy and Sarah. This is from the WebEx chat. They live in the Rockshire neighborhood. Do you have any preventative programs addressing Cadillac converter theft and theft of Hyundais and Kias due to the lax electronic setup?
I'll take that one, Kathy. Thank you very much, and thank you for your question regarding catalytic converter thefts. We had an etch event regarding catalytic converters a few months back. Very successful. We plan on doing another one. I think catalytic converter theft has been up. Not only we've had a few here in the city of Rockville, it's been up regionally, and it's certainly a national trend. So when we talk about safeguarding cars and catalytic converter thefts, we have had that etch event. We had it off North Stone Street. Again, it was a few months ago, and we intend to do another one. We'll publicize it to our community via our social media channels. Usually it's a sign-up event because there's only so many spots that can get done. The last time we did it, we sold out. It was free. I say sold out. We sold out all of our events, all of our tickets to get people to etch their catalytic converters. And that's a very prominent investigative tool for us because once your catalytic converter is etched and painted, it makes it very difficult to sell on the on a black market or through salvage shops. So those are very important things. You notice Kia. You mentioned Kia thefts and Hyundai thefts. That's certainly a local and national trend that we have. We try to educate people regarding their calls, and I think there are regarding those specific models of cars that make it very easily for them to be stolen or entered. Those are very, very important questions, and we try to educate people regarding that. And I believe, there is a manufacturer push to harden those vehicles and to possibly recall those vehicles to get them hardened so they're not so susceptible to theft. Thank you for that question.
Our next question is also another WebEx chat question from Kate Fulton. First, I'm grateful for all the RCPD does to keep this city safe. Thank you. Second, do you have suggestions for one or two simple or concrete things residents can do as individuals to increase public safety or help you do your job?
Sure. Two simple things that you can do is eliminate the opportunity for crime. If you have a vehicle, lock your doors. If you live in a residence, lock your doors at night, especially. Keep your lights on. Think about environmental factors that can invite crimes. If you have heavy shrubbery around your house or around where you park your vehicles, try to remove them, try to cut them down. Try to reduce the environmental factors that could spread the opportunity for crime. And also, talk to your neighbors, know your community, know behaviors of your community, know things that are odd. And when you see something, say something. Call your local jurisdiction, call the Rockville City Police Department, let us come out, let us evaluate the situation and handle it appropriately.
Our next question is also from the WebEx chat from Alexandria Destanito. This is a two-part question. First, what about car traffic accidents in Rockville? How is 2023 compared to previous years with the pandemic?
Good evening, Dr. Alexandria. Wonderful to have you on the call. I would say that they are on par. There was a period of time in 2020 when vehicle traffic slowed down quite a bit, especially with a lot of the lockdowns we had not only, the schools and other things. And then there was a period of time where driving behavior got very aberrant and got very aggressive during COVID. Looking at our statistical data regarding auto accidents, there is not a really significant difference statistically regarding what we've seen from 2020 through 2023. We have had an uptick, in various pedestrian collisions that we've had. Fortunately, that uptick has not been there has not been a trend where their vehicles are necessarily at fault, and the collisions are necessarily at fault, or the vehicles are necessarily at fault. It's pretty much split, where there's been pedestrian error and there has been traffic driver error on those particular things. We have had some serious traffic fatalities that we've had in the city of Rockville, some serious injuries, and those are investigated by the Collision Reconstruction Unit of the Montgomery County Police Department. But when we look at traffic accidents in general, there has not been a significant trend from 2020, 2021, 2022, and then year to date. We do respond to a lot of traffic accidents that are personal injury collisions and property damage collisions. But that data is not significant from those past 3 years. But we remain enjoined to always, investigate and to change driver behavior with patrol presence, with education, and also with citations if necessary. So thank you.
The second part of her question, in Lincoln Park, when we enter through Dover Road, there are problems with multiple car carriers and near misses. How can RCPD work with the county to reduce congestion from the industrial zone off Dover Road and South Lawn? Thank you.
Very good question also, and I think we covered that. We talked about it at the last Lincoln Park Citizens Association meeting. I think that's very, very important. A lot of parts of Dover Road are the county, and we coordinate with the county's first district. The city of Rockville is in, there's 6 districts in Montgomery County. The first district is where the first district is where the city of Rockville is. So we try to coordinate with Montgomery County when we have concerns on Dover roads, those car carriers, in particular, one of the auto manufacturers there that has cars. So those are very, very important. I think it's just outside the city. However, the coordination between the Rockville City Police Department and the Montgomery County Police Department is a strong one. But we always try to stay attuned and to educate and, again, enforce, if necessary, those portions of Dover Road that are in the city of Rockville. And when there's things that spread into Montgomery County that aren't in the purview of the city limits, then we'll coordinate with Montgomery County. So thank you very much, Doctor.
Those of you who have joined in the forum by phone, if you want to raise your hand, you can use *3. It is a shortcut to raise and lower your hand so that we can see if you want to ask a question. Now let's go to an attendee, Joseph Jordan.
Much. I want to thank Chief and everyone, Rob and staff for having this session this evening, and also to express some recognition and thanks for the good relationship that the Rockville Police Department has had with the community here in Newmark Commons. I've been a resident in Newmark for 36 years. And I'd like to get some comments or some feedback on some information that's sort of going around the community in the last week or two, and addresses specifically some concerns with the apartment buildings over on Monroe Street. I guess it's now called Parkside. It used to be Fireside. And over the years, there have been isolated incidents of vandalism and various things going on over in the apartments. But most recently, in the last couple of weeks, there have been reports. Now, again, I'm on our board of directors, and so I'm hearing this from residents kind of secondhand. But there have been reports about recent gunshots, firings. In fact, as recently as Tuesday, a couple of Newmark residents were walking along Monroe Street between Dogwood Park and the Newmark Commons community, and were stopped by some policemen. I don't know if it's Rockville or county, and asked if they had heard gunshots, and they said, yeah, in fact, they heard what they thought were 3 gunshots on Tuesday afternoon. There was a report of some aggressive dogs recently, a couple of Rottweilers that had gotten loose and were roaming the neighborhood. There was a recent report, again, within the community of a stabbing. And then a very bizarre thing that just came up was that a body was found somewhere near the lake in Newmark Commons, like on Sunday. There was some police presence, and they had actually parked on the dam that is on the lake. And that the report included the fact that not only was a body found, but evidently this person, whose body it was, had murdered someone else. So I don't know how much of this is sort of just community gossip or is any facts to it, but if you could comment, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Let me go with the body in Newmark Commons. Like, that's incorrect. That is, there's no data. There's no facts. That is, I would probably say an urban or suburban myth. That is not correct. There was no body found. And that's something, Mr. Jordan, number one, thank you for your questions. We would have notified, our mayor and council regarding that. We would have put something out in our social media channels, but that didn't occur. So I appreciate that. And oftentimes, and Mr. Jordan, I appreciate your question, because oftentimes people get, they get information from next door, they get information from some other sources, and asking us. That way we can give you what we know to be true and factual. So I think it's very, very important. So thank you for that. So first, no body found, no relationship to any conspiracy or any Discovery ID show. When we talk about the gunshots, we did have sounds of gunshots calls. There was 2 calls that came in, and that was on the 16th that we had. There was no evidence found that nor shell casings. We did have some reports from community members. They felt it was a backfire from an automobile or multiple automobiles, but we had no confirmation of shots fired. I think your next question was aberrant dogs or Rottweilers that were aggressive. The animals that we came across were pit bulls. Those pit bulls were unleashed, and there was no owners around. They were not aggressive. They did not harm anybody. We were able to take them into safe custody, take them to the Montgomery County Animal Shelter, waiting for an owner to claim them. So they remained there. But those dogs caused no harm. They were just around without any owner supervision and just walking throughout the community. And I think, Mr. Jordan, you talked about your last question was an assault or stabbing. Was that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. We have no data. We have no information nor evidence on that. We had a call for an assault with 2 individuals. We had a juvenile caller that reported it to us. There was no suspect nor victim found in that particular case. We thoroughly canvassed, and the 2 individuals that were together, apparently it came out as a possible assault, and then it came out as a possible stabbing. There was no evidence found, nor did we ever find a victim or a suspect in that particular case, and that was unfounded. But thank you very much for your call, and more importantly, I appreciate you asking the question, because sometimes information is erroneously shared throughout our community, and they get things that aren't necessarily factual. Please, we're always available. We're here 24/7. If you have those questions, let us know. We'll give you what the facts are. So thank you very much, Mr. Jordan.
Great. Thank you so much.
Our next question is from the WebEx chat from Barry Jackson from King Farm. Hi, Chief. I'm asking this question as a father of 2 daughters, one in Julius West and one in Richard Montgomery. First, let me say that Officer Tibbs does a wonderful job with the students. My question is, can you describe the coordination and the procedures you have in place to respond to calls that occur in Rockville schools?
Great. One of you said, Bill, do you want to take that?
I'd love to take that. Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for complimenting Corporal Tibbs. He is indeed very dedicated to his job. He loves working with the schools, and he has developed an incredible relationship, not only with Richard Montgomery High School, but all the feeder schools that go into that, including Julius West. As that program works, Corporal Tibbs is, for the most part, assigned to Richard Montgomery and those feeder schools. And he makes sure that he finds time to go and visit all those schools, including the elementary schools in Julius West, and keeps those relationships. But even more importantly, that the younger students get used to and get to develop a relationship with Corporal Tibbs, since logic would say that they're eventually going to feed up to Richard Montgomery High School, and then they would see him there. And the relationship starting earlier in age is a great idea. There are other officers with Montgomery County that are assigned to the other schools. Generally, it works through the high school system. So, Rockville High School, Wooten High School, and then throughout the county. But once again, there is a range of priorities that, since there are so many schools and we have fewer officers throughout the county that are assigned to those schools, that there's kind of a mutual aid agreement. So no school is ever left behind. It kind of sounds like a slogan we should put on a cup. But what that means is that if there is an officer assigned to a school and maybe he's working on something else, but something happens at that particular school, through that mutual aid, Corporal Tibbs or another officer assigned to schools could be contacted and would come over there and handle it accordingly. And because they're used to working in the schools, they really are the absolute best person. However, that being said, our patrol officers also routinely will go and either respond to any calls for service or anything that might be a concern. Many times we get calls for service for things that happen right outside of schools, not even on school property. But we know that because of the proximity, we know that's a priority because, obviously keeping our schools safe and having that feeling of safety is very important as one of the services that the police department provides. So you do have layers of response that come to schools that may need that. So whether it would be Corporal Tibbs or somebody like him, oftentimes I will send also my community engagement officers, and they will go and visit the schools as well, because I don't think we can have enough good interaction with our schools and our students, quite frankly. The more they get to know us, I think the better we work, and there's ever a happen chance that we do have an incident. Does that answer your question, or did you have a little more?
That question was via the WebEx chat.
Okay.
And I will check and see if Mr. I see Barry Jackson is still signed on. I'll unmute your mic if you want to interact.
Thanks, but that answered my question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next question comes from Judy Rudolph.
Thank you for letting me have another chance. This is kind of a follow-up to several points that people have made. And by the way, I guess I didn't identify my neighborhood, but I was in Newmark Commons for 38 years, in Town Center for 4 years, and now I'm in King Farm. This relates to perceptions versus reality and the data and statistics. I've never understood why the weekly crime reports that are never pushed out as a communication, but are on the city website, are kind of selected. And it's not overall, they're just kind of selected incidents. Some of us who are data geeks know how to extract from the county incident reports and so on. It would seem to me that if the city could publish more complete police dispatch calls and more of the incidents, some of this the grapevine and concern and so on could be answered, and kind of it would just clarify for people what the police are really doing, what kinds of calls, and so on.
Sure. So I will say we try to give out as much information as we can. A lot of times we have to be very careful about what we disseminate and how we disseminate it, because these are active investigations. Active investigations are protected so we can have a successful prosecution as to what's going on. Other times when we give out information, it could be harmful to an investigation because we're giving it out to the public, who we have suspects who are committing these crimes also monitor our social media. So we have to be very selective of what we put out, how we put it out, and when we put it out. We try to provide as much information that's useful for the community so that you guys have an understanding and public safety aspect to know what's going on when you have serious situations going on in your community, so you can be alert to the crime, and you can also feed information back to us. We work with our civic associations and our HOAs very closely. We have very tight bonds with all of them. Mr. Berry is on the line. He's with King Farm. He can probably attest to that. We work with them very closely on almost everything that's going on. If you have questions, please monitor our social media or call into us directly, and we would be glad to tell you what we can tell you about a specific situation.
I guess my concern is that the data that I'm talking about is what's public information on the county's data portal. And I know that that the Pedestrian Advocacy Committee gets extracts from that of police dispatched incidents that involve pedestrian incidents. It's publicly available, but I don't think the average Rockville resident would have the interest or the ability to go and do those extracts. And it seems to me that just having extracting that into a spreadsheet form and having that instead of the cherry picked few things that you put on would answer some of the kinds of questions that spread rumors and concern on Nextdoor and just through the neighborhood grapevine.
I think you're asking about things that are going on between a traffic safety type incident with a pedestrian accident or a vehicle collision versus a criminal investigation. Two different things. We can always look into what Montgomery County is putting out and see what we can adjust for. Thank you.
Thank you. I thought I saw, I believe this is Council Member Monique Ashton hand raised, but now I do not see it. So I'm not sure if she had a question still. Okay. Yes. Councilmember Ashton.
Thank you, Ms. Dansler, and thank you to the entire city staff and RCPD. I just wanted to note these are important opportunities to be able to share updates and to hear from the community, and we just appreciate the opportunity to have these town hall forums. I also wanted to echo that this is the third compliment I've heard for Corporal Tibbs, so I wanted to give online kudos. I know, Chief, you and I spoke about that this week. Several of the principals have really strong relationships with RCPD. I know that there were a couple of things that have happened, and our school systems are a microcosm of things that are going on in our community. But the city police have been working very, very closely to try to address issues and prevent them and to improve safety. And some of our high schools have made modifications based on the advice and counsel of RCPD. I also just wanted to raise one other issue that doesn't get the same kind of headlines, but really affects some of our seniors in terms of the identity theft and the calls that are constantly being made to Rockville homes. I just wanted to see what advice you'd give to those who have seniors in their community who may be, being trolled to be victimized.
Hi, Monique, and thank you very much for asking. It is a very important question, and even I couldn't help but to notice when Lieutenant West was going over the stats that identity theft was up very high in 2021, and now it is coming back down. And I think it's coming back down for a couple of reasons. Obviously, I think COVID, keeping people in homes, probably gave people opportunity to do something like identity theft. But I think also we did see a rise in like our population of seniors getting phone calls that lead to identity theft. And I can personally attest to that because my father calls me from time to time and he says, I got this call and it was such and such. And I said, Dad, there was somebody who was trying to dupe you into giving some money. So these identity theft cases are very real and they're very serious and they should be taken seriously. But I also think that one of the reasons why we're seeing identity theft come down, especially in our area, is because our community engagement officers, in particular Sergeant Vaccaro and Corporal Crow, have done a great job of meeting with different groups of people in our neighborhoods and our civic associations and even our community centers, including our senior center, and are doing a great job of educating as many people as they can reach to explain what identity theft is and how to recognize it. And we're going to keep working on that. When we see something that's working, we try to recognize it, and then we say, let's keep going with that because that's working. And I'm really encouraged that I do think the numbers are coming down because we are educating as many of the people in our population as we can. And I think it's working out great for our community, but we're always looking for another opportunity to find another way to get that out.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Ashton. I wanted to pose a question. RCPD recently welcomed Miss Beth Lafters. Am I saying her name right? Sorry if I'm not. She's your new mental health specialist. What can you tell us about this new position and your vision for mental health initiative in the city?
Kathy, I'll handle that one. It's Beth Loftus. She's a wonderful addition to RCPD and our team. And first, let me give a huge thanks to our city manager and to our mayor and council for recognizing and supporting filling this position. The Rockville City Police Department responds to almost 3 calls for service a day on average that we know that have to do with people in crisis, in mental health crisis. Oftentimes that number is even higher because a call for service may come out for an auto accident or some other offense. And once we come on the scene and we triage that situation, we determine that someone is affected by mental health crisis. All of our officers receive CIT training, which is very, very important for us to help navigate and help people in that crisis. But we also recognize to have an in-house individual, a clinician, a therapist that has an advanced degree and advanced credentials to help people navigate those things in crisis. Those people in crisis is very, very important. And timeliness is very, very, very important. So almost, I guess it's been about 5 or 6 weeks ago now, Ms. Loftus has started with us. She is housed right here in RCPD, and she's making a significant impact of how we deal with people in mental health crisis in our community. It's very, very important for us is that we have alternatives, albeit our officers are very, very good navigating those things. Having a clinician with us in a co-responder type of model is very, very important. So, I can say that we are the first municipality in Montgomery County and one of the few in the area that have an in-house clinician to help us support our community and those in crisis. Huge thing for us, and we hope to grow it in the future. But again, we're just in the fledgling steps of this, so we're just getting up and walking right now. We hope to be running, but it's a great thing, and we welcome Beth to our RCPD family and our community.
Thank you for that. I just want to reiterate that this is an opportunity for you to ask your questions to the RCPD command staff. Taking this opportunity is a very good thing for you to get to know your community and understand how RCPD is working for you. I wanted to know, Chief, we've been hearing all over the nation how filling police officer positions is challenging for police agencies. How has our CPD been faring when it comes to recruiting and retaining your police officers?
Kathy, thank you very much for the question. it's significant. The most significant crisis in American law enforcement, not only locally, regionally, and nationally, is recruitment and retention. It is, in the history of American law enforcement, it is the #1 crisis that we've ever faced. And it's growing and it's getting worse. And RCPD is not immune to those issues when it comes to recruitment and retention. That period of time, we had upwards of 15 vacancies. Through Herculean efforts of our staff, we were able to do some very innovative things. We have reduced those vacancies to 4 now. And we have brought in some wonderful people that reflect our community. We are very happy to have them aboard and part of RCPD. So, we've done innovative things. We've done things that other agencies have asked us about throughout the country and regionally, and some of them have mimicked what we've done. But it's really about, bringing in the right people. The most important thing that, a police chief or sheriff does, and particularly me, is that, get the right people involved, hire the right people, train and develop them, and ensure we have accountability. So it's something that we, even though we've done exceptionally well, we are not comfortable. We are continuing to find folks, and again, we still have a few vacancies, but we're going to continue to keep going and bringing the right people on board to serve our community. So it's very difficult. And again, if you only have to look above the fold or on any evening newscast or weekend newscast, and you'll find something about police recruitment and retention. But we have done well. And again, through the support of the city manager and our mayor and council, we were able to do some innovative things. But we can't be comfortable of what we have now. We have to strive to always continue to do better. The law enforcement market right now for police officers is incredibly competitive. So we must remain competitive, and we must continue to look for the best and brightest for our community. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Yes, Rob.
I just wonder if I could add to the chief's comments, please.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you, Chief, for providing the response that you did. I'd just like to elaborate just a little bit more, particularly on the role of the mayor and council, which you and I both give tremendous credit to, for assisting us, giving us some of the tools that have been very effective in helping us bring the vacancy numbers down, and we hope and believe retain some very valuable employees with our agency. The mayor and council, when requested, we had recommended adding some steps to the pay table so that veteran officers who were topping out, reaching the top step on the pay scale, and not having additional opportunity to grow their employment pay base. This would allow mayor council approved 3 additional steps, which allows for continued true wage growth, and thus an incentive for these valuable veteran officers who wish to remain with our agency, where it makes more economic sense for them to remain with our agency. So to help us prevent bleeding any more officers than we need to. Also, we had requested permission to offer hiring bonuses, both for entry level and laterals, 2 different amounts, but that was also an attempt to remain competitive on that front. And finally, a mayor and council authorized a retention bonus for officers, for existing officers, to help show the value that we have, that we understand that they represent, and hope that this will help them to want to remain with our agency as opposed to being lured to another agency that might be dangling some other incentives or things that are attractive to them. So again, our mayor council has been extremely forward-looking. and extremely responsive to the requests of the administrative staff and the chief to respond to this hiring crisis, which the chief said accurately is a nationwide issue, but it's a regional issue as well. It's helped us remain competitive, and it's helped us keep the number of officers that we need in the community to help keep residents safe. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's just keep it with recruiting. Since we're talking about that, if someone in the audience listening or someone that may see this or rebroadcast, they want to have a career in law enforcement, what's the best way for them to apply?
I would tell them to look at our website, look us up. We're on the internet. We have a recruiting site. Call one of our many recruiters. Call Andrea Escher, who is handling our initial applications and review. Stop and talk to one of our officers on the street. Get to know them. Every one of our officers is trained to be an ambassador to the community, and they're all recruiters. And they all want to help the next generation of police officers come on board. We have a great program here. We're excited to bring people in. We have a new mentorship program to help you through the on-the-job application process. And once you get on, to train you to become a successful police officer. We have a strong onboarding process that helps you accomplish that. Also come and schedule a ride along. See what we're all about, see what law enforcement is all about, and see if you can be the next star in our agency.
Thank you for that. I see Adam Van Grack, you have another question?
Thank you, Kathy. Chief, following up on what you had talked about with regard to cameras in town center and adjacent areas, over the past couple of weeks, the Planning Commission has had a number of listening sessions with the public regarding the town center master plan that they're anticipating. And one of the activities that they gave to all the participants during these meetings was allow yourself to be a planner. And what can you do to town center to make it better? And a number of people talked about infrastructure issues with regard to safety, whether it's lighting or sidewalks that might be able to potentially make town center better or easier for the police or for the citizens. Are there things, if you could be a master planner and you could take a look at town center or the surrounding neighborhoods, such as the West End, such as Lincoln Park, and you could change something infrastructure-wise, whether it's increased lightings or sidewalks, keep it off the street, what would you like to see potential change as part of that master plan?
Well, Adam, a very good question. So if I had a magic wand, let me just say this is that, my education is in law enforcement, but there's a segment in law enforcement. It's called CPTED. It's called Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. And I think in any development stage, CPTED principles, which are nothing new. It's something in crime prevention through environmental design has to do with lighting, with landscaping, building exposure, doors, windows, those type of things. I think that there should be, a reflection on law enforcement to be involved in that process. When you look at design guidelines, lighting is very, very important. Shrubbery, planting, trees, the level, the size, those type of things are very, very important. But line of sight is very, very important also. And we have people here on the police department that are trained and accomplished in CPTED principles. So, I would like, the PD to be involved in that. Ultimately, when we look at finalization of building permits, growth, that we have a voice, and we're able to talk about those things, and what would be behoove or what would benefit the community with another set of eyes on that process. But CPTED principles are very prominent, and we offer those type of things to our community also. When we just went over some of those issues, with King Farm, when they asked that the very question. I'd like that. I think it's important is that when you look at safety and resiliency in communities, It's a team sport. It's not just law enforcement. It's not just planning. It's not just code. It's not permitting. It's all those things. It's a team sport. So, in a perfect world, to have that voice, I think, is important. Thank you.
And it looks like Judy Rudolph has another question. Or not. I thought I saw her hand raised. So let's go to the WebEx chat. Lynn, I am a I am a resident of King Farm. Do your statistics on those arrested for assaults, stranger on stranger, and auto thefts include the addresses of those apprehended? What percentage are Rockville residents?
As far as our crime data and statistics that we presented here tonight with the PowerPoint, no, we certainly didn't list all those demographics. We do track those statistics. We maintain a positive relationship with King Farms HOA. We communicate out to them when we have crimes or incidents or trends in their neighborhood. And we do that in the middle of the night. We do it on the weekends. So we try to get the real data, things that folks that live in King Farm need to know. We try to do that on a real-time basis. So hopefully that answers your question.
Our next question comes from Barry Jackson. Barry?
Thanks. Barry Jackson, King Farm. And I just happened to be asking a question right when you were discussing King Farm. My question really is to the point of cameras. Can you guys describe, because you did, and pleasantly so, you surprised me that you provide a service, you will come out there and give a homeowner tips about coverage of a camera. Can you describe that for people that might not know that you offer that service and then what it entails?
Well, I think anyone can call us, whether or not they want to reach out to us on the website. Barry, and thank you for your question. Reach out to our website or any of our contact information that we have readily available on the Rockville City Police Department's website, which will give you all those avenues of communication to us. We will certainly come out and look and have a survey and look at your residents. We're not going to make any specific manufacturer recommendation, but we'll say what's important. LED lighting is very, very important. Those type of things are very, very important. Cameras are very, very important. And the installation thereof and where they should be would be the most important aspects for but we'd be more than happy to provide that to anyone in our community.
No, thank you very much. I was muting because I was done, but I just say, I mean, you guys have really been great to King Farm. You provide the information that we need, and we can ask a question at any time. So I just give your department really props because you guys have been wonderful partners.
Barry, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and likewise, we try to do that for every community that we have. This is a forum that we're having tonight is trying to, have different voices involved, throughout the community. We appreciate your partnership greatly, but we have very in-depth relationships throughout the city of Rockville and more than 13 square miles. We try to integrate ourselves everywhere, and those that don't know us, we want to get to know you.
Here's a question. Do you think the racial makeup of a community's police department should be similar to the racial makeup of the community it serves? Or is this unnecessary?
Kathy, that's a very good question. It's something, in my experience has been asked in my tenure in Washington, D.C., my tenure in Washington County, and certainly here. I think it's nothing but a positive. We have a very diverse police department that has only grown in further. I think we have about 50% diversity And our community, our police department gets more diverse and matches the makeup of our community better every day. So it's nothing but a positive. I think the reflection of that is very, very important. And we're, again, it's something that we always strive to do and continue to do. So, yes, it is absolutely, I think it's imperative that we do, and we strive to do it the best we can. So, again, we welcome everyone here. And if you've seen, if you look at our social media posts, you've seen the people that we brought on board. We are very proud to involve people in our police department that certainly transcends and looks like our community. So thank you.
And there have been many residents who expressed concern over the increase in loud exhaust coming from vehicles all over the city. What is RCP doing to help quell that noise?
That's a great question. In fact, I fielded a question from a resident today on that very same thing. Vehicle noise, loud exhaust has been something that's been plaguing the community for some time now. Maryland itself currently does not have any laws that allows for sound technology. That's one of the things we have investigated. New York State currently has something called the Sleep Act. And what it does, it allows for sound technology to pick up a racing vehicle, racing engine, or a loud exhaust, and it captures that license plate. It then sends that vehicle owner a notice to take your vehicle for inspection at a vehicle emissions or inspection station in the city of New York. If the vehicle is found to be outside of city or state regulations, they're fined. Maryland currently doesn't have a law like that, but there has been several bills that have been trying to get into the Maryland General Assembly. We've been working with our District 17 delegation. We've supported those bills. Unfortunately, they failed in the Maryland General Assembly this year to get passed, but it's something that we're working on. We also are working with our patrol teams whenever we have situations where we have areas of complaints of this nature. We go out, we have our officers out in the area, in the community. When they see violations, when they hear violations, they do their best to enforce them under the laws that we have on the books at this time, which is basically you would stop the violator, you would issue them a state equipment repair order or a citation to get them to have the vehicle checked out through the Maryland State Police to determine if it's in compliance with Maryland state law or not. So again, great question. It's something we're working on. It's something that the state of Maryland is working on. So thank you again.
And keeping with that, Senator Cheryl Kagan has put a comment in the chat, said, "We passed a law on this in Annapolis this year. Chief Brito has been a wonderful leader on this issue for several years." So thanks for that, Senator Kagan. Next question, effective July 1st. Oh, I'm sorry, Chief, go ahead.
Kathy, I apologize. Can I just say, number one, Senator Kagan, thank you very much. You've been an incredible supporter of the Rockville City Police Department and the City of Rockville. And I know all the hard work that you put in this past legislative session and you've done in the past. So I am very, very appreciative of all your work and all your support. So thank you very much for that. And we appreciate you.
We have another WebEx chat question from Alexandra Destinito. Hiring initiative, housing. How many current officers live in Rockville? Can they afford Rockville?
Dr. Alexander, thank you very much for your question. Rockville's expensive. I think there is an initiative right now in the current budget to provide incentives. If I'm correct, Rob, I believe we do have an initiative right here. I don't have the exact number of officers. We have numerous officers that live in the state of Maryland. But you're exactly right. Rockville is expensive. So obviously, it'd be a great thing, but we do have incentives that are going through this budget cycle now in FY24. And Rob, if you want to add a comment to that.
Sure. Thank you, Chief. That's accurate. My proposal to the mayor and council included a incentive for up to 10 employees to get $25,000, up to $25,000 down payment assistance. Mayor and council are still working on the budget process. That component is still part of the package. Mayor and council are working towards an ultimate budget adoption on May 15th. So couldn't say anything definitively until then, but it is something that I believe the mayor and council have expressed support for as a way to have several goals here. One is, yes, we would most certainly love to have more officers live within the corporate limits of the city, but also we want to have to continue to show the officers that we've got incentives and we've got various attractive employment features to retain good officers here, and that we don't want to lose folks, and we want to remain competitive in the marketplace. Thank you.
There was a comment, Chief, that was in the WebEx chat. Note that not all King Farm residents are members of the KFCA. Renters, Ingleside residents do not own property. There are similar issues with outreach since many city residents are not represented by HOAs. Do you have any comment to that comment?
Well, yes, I do. Is that regardless of whether you're a member of an HOA, you're a community group, or neighborhood group, or neighborhood association, you are valuable to us, everyone in this community. That's why we're having this forum tonight, is that there's many people that aren't part of HOAs, neighborhood associations, neighborhood groups, and that's why we wanted to have this forum for those people to have a voice. We listen to everyone, and I appreciate that comment. It's a great comment. That's why we're doing this tonight, is that while there's many noticeable and very engaged community groups, but there's also smaller groups. There's also different segments of our community that aren't engaged in those type of associations. So we want your voice, we want your thoughts, we want your concerns, and we listen to everyone. So that's an excellent question. So thank you very much.
Effective July 1st, 2023, recreational marijuana will be legal in the state of Maryland. Is your department expecting to see an increase in the calls for police assistance with people smoking in public and/or the increase in the smell?
I'll take that one, Kathy. Yes, effective July 1st of 2023, legalization of recreational marijuana will take place. I think it's quite prevalent and quite possible that you'll see a number of different people, just like they smoke tobacco products out in public space. You'll probably see that in a heightened level of that. I can tell you in my personal experience, when I was in Washington, D.C. with the Metropolitan Police Department, in 2014, recreational use of marijuana was passed. And D.C. has had recreational marijuana on the books since 2014, actually went into effect in early 2015. So, it's going on a decade now there. And certainly what I saw with our officers there was a very significant increase in public smoking. We do expect that, and we hope through education and further legislative things that may come across, because it's still illegal to smoke in public. But what we want to be able to do is educate people first and foremost before enforcement action. I think that's the most prevalent and the most prominent track to take. But we do expect that to happen, and we do expect a heightened level of calls for service and feedback from our community. So thank you.
Another WebEx chat question from Michelle Pritchard. Are there any plans to do more with respect to speeding in residential developments as well as loud cars speeding?
Let's see here. I'll take that. Yeah, hey, Andy, do you want to take that?
Sure. So we've already covered the loud cars. As far as the speeding in residential neighborhoods, we're getting complaints from pretty much every area of the city. Ever since the pandemic hit, speeds have increased. We're trying to get them back under control, but that is it's an ongoing concern. It's something that our patrol officers and our traffic unit look at on a daily basis. Obviously, we can't be everywhere at once, but yeah, that is on our radar.
Thank you for that. And another WebEx question from Raina. I live in Falls Grove and have witnessed an increase in middle schoolers bullying younger kids at parks and neighborhood streets. What should I do? Notify the school, the police? If I can't find the parents, what's the next correct course of action?
Hey, Kathy, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question all the way. What are the kids doing to the other kids?
They're
Oh,
bullying.
bullying, okay. Well, I think it's really going to depend on the extent of what that bullying looks like. If the bullying looks like it's an assault, if it looks like, one student is in distress from being assaulted by a larger student, that's a police matter. That's a matter where the police should be contacted immediately so that we can respond out accordingly and identify what's going on. If we're talking about, verbal, I think you're right. I think, perhaps that is a school issue. Public schools are very in tune with the communities around them. The school principals that I've had the pleasure of working with are always very responsive and receptive to concerns around their area schools when it comes to the students, especially if we're talking about times when kids are on their way into school or when kids are on their way out of school. So I think depending on the incident that we're talking about in particular, either contacting the schools and talking to them about it where they could have some type of assembly to try to reduce bullying and maybe more education about that. But if we're talking about serious incidents, those are definitely police matters, and those are things that we take very seriously, would want to know about right away so that we can go out there. And, one thing that I want to make sure everybody that's listening understands is you're never wasting the police department's time by calling us with a concern. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that over the last 25 years. I'm sorry to bother you with this, but I have this concern. We pride on ourselves that one of our values in this police department is that we are service oriented. And part of that service is coming out and listening to people's concerns and maybe having a good conversation with somebody about those concerns for future reference and education and what have you. So when somebody sees something that just doesn't look right, that looks like it could be potentially serious, it is never a waste of our time for you to call us and have us respond out there and investigate it accordingly.
Thank you for that. And another WebEx chat question from Kathy Sendios. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. We frequently visit town center, but are uncomfortable parking in the garages. I remember there was an attempt carjacking in one of the garages recently. How safe is it to park there at night?
Well, thank you for the question. I can tell you that we have extra officers that patrol, and we direct their patrols to the town square area of the city every night. So we do try to keep a presence there as much as we can. I think the town square is very safe. Obviously, we're going to have criminal events happen, and they happen all over the city. The town square is not excluded from that. But all of our patrol officers, our community engagement officers, our midnight officers, our K-9 unit, they all conduct directed patrols for high visibility in our town square. It's important that our community members that visit town square, the residents that live there, and the businesses that operate there all feel safe and they see our presence. So hopefully you're seeing our officers, because I can assure you they're down there.
Thank you for that. And Matt Perkins just wanted to remind listeners that the City of Rockville's Community Policing Advisory Board has a meeting that will take place Thursday, May 4th at 7:45 p.m. at the Lincoln Park Community Center. City residents are encouraged to attend and can sign up for speaking slots. Now back to some questions. What are some safeguards? What safeguards can the police department put in place to ensure that your officers use the appropriate level of force and provide objective evidence in situations where police use deadly force?
Sure. Fantastic question. So there's been a number of safeguards that have been put in place, not only by the police department, but by Maryland legislation that's known as police reform. Several things have been enacted as far as departmental shootings that are now not investigated by the individual agency. They are investigated by the Attorney General's office, the Independent Investigation Division. They handle the prosecution as well as the investigation as of July 1st of 2023. That comes into enactment. The agency itself has done several things. We send all of our officers to ABLE training and have a policy on our duty to intervene when our officers are watching other officers commit acts that are outside our policy or are harmful to the community. All of our officers in patrol wear body-worn cameras where they record all their interactions with community members. Anytime there's a use of force that is applied against a member of the public, the agency does a full investigation into that policy, into the use of force in our policy to determine that it meets the criteria of our agency. It is signed off on and reviewed all the way up through to include the chief of police. We also have use of force training. Our officers must sign an oath of affirmation of our use of force training that they understand our policy and they will comply with it under Maryland law. They also sign a sanctity of life pledge in which they say they understand their position is to save lives, not to harm them. So we've put a number of measures in place as well as Maryland legislation. Thank you.
Another question from the WebEx chat. Barry Jackson says, I was surprised to learn that there is a speed limit on speed cameras. I believe that they are only allowed on roadways with speed limits of 35 miles per hour or under. Should it be allowed on roads with higher speeds? And how can the city go about changing that regulation or law?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. That is correct. Right now, at this time, by state law in the city of Rockville, Montgomery County, we can only install speed monitoring systems on roadways that have a speed limit of 35 miles per hour or less. And as I mentioned, this is a legislative issue. There are some jurisdictions within the state of Maryland that can actually deploy in higher speed zones, but those are strictly regulated to school zones. But in order to get that changed, it would have to be through legislation.
Thank you. And I just want to circle back to the City of Rockville's Community Policing Advisory Board. That meeting starts at 7:15 on Thursday, May 4th, at the Lincoln Park Community Center. Back to the questions. Many believe that police cannot function effectively without community relationships, trust, cooperation, and a shared sense of responsibility for public safety. What more can be done to promote the public's trust in police?
Captain, thank you very much for the question. Number one is this doesn't go, and I like to, start out with those of you that are old enough to remember Dragnet. When Detective Friday was always just the facts, ma'am. We are way beyond that. Good policing, good constitutional policing involves participation and collaboration. We cannot effectively keep our community safe and resilient without the people that work with us each and every day. Your eyes and ears, you tell us things, you're involved, you're supportive. So those things are very, very important. And I think what we do here in the city of Rockville is a form of concierge type of policing, is that there's nothing too small that we won't help you with. That's what's really, really important. And being engaged, that conversation, that communication and how we put things out. So it's very, very important that we have collaboration, participation, and partnership. What we've done also, when we talk about messaging and getting information out. What we've done in the last few years, and Andrew Estier has done an incredible job with putting out information in our public information. And as Kathy, as you know, you've been incredibly helpful with that also. So it's very, very important as we message out what's going on. So communication is the lifeblood of what we do. That's very, very important. And I'll just give you a quick visual. When you look at any police officer throughout this country, you'll see a uniform that they wear. You'll see a patch, a representative of where they're at, what jurisdiction, what city, municipality, state, etc. You look around, you look at a uniform, which is whether it be California, whether it be Boston, whether it be Montana, Florida, Texas, Virginia, it doesn't matter. Police officers always wear a uniform. You'll see a tool belt around their waist that have very, very important tools that protect you and protect the police officer. It could be a firearm, it could be a taser, a ASP, multi-$1,000 radio, could be some chem bio equipment. But the most important tool that a police officer has is his or her mouth, their ability to communicate effectively. And I think that's what's really great about our police department. We have selfless police officers that can communicate effectively every day, and they do wonderful things. So communication is that when there's a question, there's a concern, we communicate effectively, we do it in partnership. It's a team sport. Keeping our community safe and resilient is absolutely a team sport. So thank you, Kathy, for that question.
And as we wind down, we have two final questions, both coming from the WebEx chat from Kathy Sendios. Again, apologize if I mispronounced your name. She says, I've heard on Nextdoor app that there is a problem of cars racing on Goody Drive. True?
Andy?
Yeah, I can take that.
Yes.
So we've had a new location set up for a car meet. It's not actually in the city. Most of East Goody Drive is not within the city limits. From South Hall to Frederick Avenue, 355 is not in the city. There's a coalition of departments, Gaithersburg, Maryland State, Montgomery County Sheriff's Department. Whenever we hear of a car meet like this, then we'll all band together and put officers out there and try and disperse the crowd. If they're on private property and they're not making any issues, they're allowed to continue to do so. Other than the car meets, I'm not familiar with any racing on East Goody Drive that's, other than the car meets.
And our final question for tonight, it comes from Michelle Pritchard at the through the WebEx chat. How does RCPD handle quiet hours in an apartment complex? And could you clarify those hours as well?
Yeah, I'm not sure which apartment complex we're talking about. We respond to apartment complexes and condominiums all throughout the city for loud noise, loud TV. Going back to a prior question, we get calls a lot for the odor of marijuana in the apartment buildings in the city. So we do respond to those calls. Usually when we go out there, we make a simple request for someone to turn down the music or, take their event inside or indoors. And those people comply with that. And that's the end of the call for service. Now, of course, we do have trouble spots throughout the city where we have multiple calls and that they're reoccurring, and we're all familiar with those locations. But our officers are in those areas, and we try to maintain the peace. I'm not really familiar with any specific quiet hours because a lot of the noise complaints we go to are loud TV, or if someone lives in an apartment, we get calls for people walking loudly on the floor above, or maybe a child crying. So they're a majority of the calls that we're responding to in the city.
All right, thanks for that. And as we wind up, first of all, thank you everyone that joined us. And Chief, do you have any final words?
I do. Kathy, thank you very much for your moderation tonight. You've done an outstanding job. We appreciate your partnership. Well done. Thank you. I do. Rockville, I want to tell you thank you for listening. We are engaged and we're always there for you 24/7. We appreciate everything you do. If you have a question, ask. If you have it, we can get right back to you. And with that, I'd like to say good night, Rockville. Appreciate you all. Thank you very much.